order the Ben Hill County Board of Education meeting for March the 14th, 2023. Thank you all for being here. I want to especially thank you guys for being here to support our new superintendent, Ms. Dawn Clemens. And it's just a coincidence, but it's also Board Appreciation Week. Yay! So thank you all for being here. At this time, I would like to ask for invocation for those of you who would care to join us. I would like to ask Jerry.
Sure.
For invocation.
Who would join me for a moment of silence, please? Father, we thank you for the day. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for this opportunity that we're able to gather together as a school board, dear Lord, to take care of the business of our school system. We thank you for our administrators. We thank you for our staff, our teachers, our bus drivers, our lunch workers, dear Lord, our custodians, everybody that plays a part in our school system, Lord. But most importantly, we thank you for our students. And we pray protection over our system. And we just pray that the business carried out tonight would honor you in everything that we do and say. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Before we approve the agenda, there's one item that we need to add to the agenda. If you would please go under 6 and add a new 7. And it will be bond resolution and bond purchase, and authorizing the superintendent and the chair to sign off on that bond if it passes. Okay. And then just change the number from there on down by 1. Thank you. The floor is open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Second.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions about the agenda, including the addition? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Agenda is approved. We got some announcements and recognitions tonight. My dear, dear friend Paige, come on up. We want to recognize them. Dormany Medical Center. Do I need to read this off? Is that the way we do it? Okay. I'm coming right now. Y'all, every year we get an opportunity to pick out one of the companies in our community that have helped the school in so many different ways. And we've been able to give this award and this honor to many, many companies. But it's my pleasure tonight to present it to Dormany Medical Center by the Ben Hill County School Board in recognition of your support to public education in the community and dedication to Georgia youth. Signed by our Superintendent, Dawn Clemens, and myself, Shirley Brooks.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much. Thank y'all for letting us be a part of y'all. Yeah, sorry.
She's my photographer.
Andy, go that way. Okay? All right. 1, 2, 3.
Bombing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, one more hand for Dormany Medical, please. The next announcement, I don't know much about Georgia, Young Georgia authors. You want to share with us about that?
Mr. Webb is going to come up and recognize our Georgia Young authors, and we're excited to have our students here tonight to showcase them. So take it, Mr. Webb.
As y'all know, we've really been hitting writing very, very hard. Ben Hill County Schools, pre-K through 12, for more than a year and a half. And we're still working hard to teach our students the art of writing. And we have submissions to the Georgia Young Authors, and so we had the first place from grade levels K-5 that were submitted for them to look at, and hopefully we'll have some places there. If you will come up when I call your name. For kindergarten, Aaron Andrews for his work, My Winter Break. First grade, Sladen Johnson for the work all about Giganotosaurus. Second grade, Roman Handley, the Little Caveman. And in 3rd grade, Samaya Walton, A Special Day Spent with My Family. Fourth grade, Holly Ferguson, My Buddy. And in 5th grade, Kimberly Areza, What We Need to Know.
How about another hand for our Georgia Young Officers?
And hold on, we're gonna take a group picture in just a second. Dawn, if you want to stay right there. Stay right there. Okay, we're gonna squish them. Okay, y'all go over near Miss Clemens, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Mr. Webb, you're too tall. Come back over here. You're in the light. I'm trying to get you out of the light. I'm sorry. Okay, like that. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, everybody look. 1, 2, 3, everybody smile. It's the crazy camera lady. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, that was absolutely wonderful. We need some good writers. Y'all did a great job. Thank you. Okay, let's take a look at our minutes. Need to approve minutes from the regular monthly meeting for February the 7th, 2023.
Motion to approve minutes from the regular meeting, February 7th,
Thank you,
2023.
Mr. Cox.
Second.
Got a second right here, Mr. Johnson. Any comments, any corrections, omissions, or deletions? All in favor of the minutes as written, February 7th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We had a call meeting too on February 23rd, 2023. I need a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes, February 23rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Okay, all in favor of the minutes from the call meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comments. Anybody want to talk to us? I have no one signed up. If that is correct, we will move on. Thank you so much. The next thing that we have is that the addition that we added to the agenda, I would like to have Mr. Frank King and his guests come up and talk to us about our bond resolution, our bond purchase of $1,990,000, and authorizing me and the superintendent to sign off on that. Give us some info. Thank you, sir.
Well, listen, thank you, Chairman Shirley Brooks. I don't think any of y'all know me, but she does. A few people in the audience do. I had the privilege of being the school superintendent here. I came 45 years ago. Now, if that doesn't make you feel 45 years ago. And
Oh, I don't know you.
And I generally take 2 or 3 minutes. I'm gonna take 5. I'm gonna take a point of personal privilege, take 5 or 6 tonight. I remember when this school, and honestly, it was old then, but back in the day, the best thing you could do in Georgia was be something called Georgia School of Excellence, and for about 10 or 12 years, that was the thing. And this was Fitzgerald Elementary, and it was one of the first Georgia Schools of Excellence, and I'll never forget all of that. But anyway, stayed here 10 years and left 35 years ago, and I can't tell you, I have a perspective a lot of you don't, just from having watched y'all over the years, how much better and the improvements that have been made in the school system. Y'all would not appreciate, I don't know if some of y'all were, some of you weren't born 45 years ago, I don't think, but you wouldn't appreciate it, but I mean, I really do. Now, I got my feelings hurt a little bit a minute ago. I was telling somebody out there that how much I thought the school system had improved. They said, well, the superintendents have really improved. And I congratulate Ms. Clements, and y'all made an excellent choice. So that being said, I want to just mention two things. A piece of history 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe that is, I don't think you, and since we've got a good crowd here, community appreciates this. And then I also want to just quickly mention the bond issue and then turn it over to Tom Owen. But I had the privilege of coming here, I think we started about 2014 to 15, 16, trying to plan the financing of a new high school. And I mean, it's just terrific. And but I remember Nancy Whitney was the superintendent then, and I know Ms. Brooks, y'all have honored her at the high school. And it was greatly, it should have been done because she actually got all of that going. And the Chairman Smith, the school board, and others moved that along, Thomas Rachels. But here's the point I want to make. If y'all had waited 18 months, and you would know this, Greg, if you, on that project, if it hadn't moved, if you'd have waited 18 months, that project today, where I guess the whole package is probably $50 million out there, that would have been a $70 million cost today. Is that correct? So you think about it, by the people that were here, a lot of people probably have saved the taxpayers of the community $20 million. I don't know if your community really understands that, because the school system leadership moved along and got that done. And I mean, it's a terrific project, but the bang for the buck that you got is great. Now, here's a point tonight. We're doing what's called pricing a small bond issue, not quite $2 million, although you will hear that after it's priced, you're going to get more than $2 million for the construction fund, and Tom can explain that. It's kind of a smaller bond issue, but here's the beauty of it. Y'all have had, if you look on page, let me see if I can find it real quick, the page that shows your sales tax in the last few years, which is page 8. Look at page 8. When the planning was being done back in 15 and 16, look at the bottom of those columns and see what was your sales tax revenue in the $2 million range. You go today, 2000, where you've been the last 12 months, all the way up, it's highlighted in yellow, almost $3 million is coming in sales tax. Now, some of that's Amazon sales and some other things. Some of it is economic development in the community. Some of it's, and so I just say, and I know y'all got a SPLOST to vote that has, anyway, all that being said, you've had terrific growth and you're able to do this bond issue. It was a bond issue where we issued everything we planned at $2 million, and you're able to do that now, and with your growth in sales tax, you still have the pay-go money or the extra money that you had when you were planning this. So I mean, it's like getting free money, but it's certainly really a good opportunity for you to get money for athletic facilities. And I'll turn this over to Tom. I know it's kind of a thrill to me because even though I've been gone so long, I still follow Fitzgerald Hurricanes, not only in football but in everything else. But I get to a game or two a year, and I saw the championship game. But you've got a chance to really develop some nice athletic facilities. And in my time, and in those years later, there was never a time you had as much out at the school. We were always getting in a car and going somewhere to play baseball or something. You got a chance to supplement that wonderful facility with it. That being said, Tom Owens is with me, and Tom is really an expert in this area, and I'll let Tom give you a few specifics, and then y'all go ahead and go.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I'm a stand-in for Bill Kemp, who you may be used to tonight. Bill's out of town with one of his children and asked me if I could attend for him. On the way over here, Dr. King told me a lot of things, and one I need to fact check. He told me the F in this logo stands for Frank, which I had a hard time believing that, but I don't know.
Oh, man.
This is just a little pricing summary that some of the details of your bond issue. You have your agenda item tonight is the adoption of a bond resolution. The bond resolution is effectively your contract with the bondholder. It tells you when all the payment dates are, and that you pay them in United States currency, and all those other details that somebody might worry about. What happens if the payment's on the weekend? All those little details are in there. I'm going to give you the summary of those. The second is a bond purchase agreement. So technically what we have done as your underwriter is we go out and we find investors in your bonds who have agreed to purchase them. So that bond purchase agreement is us technically buying those bonds from you. We have a underwriter's discount, which we'll talk about, and then we sell them to the investors at the prices that you're going to see in this presentation. But those are the two documents that you have before you this evening. So just to put what I'm talking about here in context. But if you'll turn over to page 2, these are just some dates. The bonds were actually priced. That's when we set the interest rates. We did that yesterday, March 13th, and you're here to consider your bond resolution this evening, the 14th. These bonds will be dated and delivered, so that's the date that the money goes into your account, and that the interest on the bonds also starts accruing. That is April the 12th. These bonds have the exact payment schedule in terms of dates as your prior issue, and so they pay interest semi-annually, twice a year, each April 1st and October 1st, and then you make principal reductions on this bond just one time a year, which is a normal thing. That's how your other bonds work. That's the convention in the municipal bond market. These are rated bonds, and so there was a evaluation by Moody's Investor Service of the school district's creditworthiness. You were assigned an A2 rating, which is what we had before, so you're still in line with where you have been. And then these bonds also received an enhancement by virtue of what's called the State Intercept Program from schools, which we can talk about the mechanics of that if you have interest in it. But it gets you a little better bond rating, sort of piggyback off the state of Georgia. It doesn't cost anything to participate, but that gets you a AA1 bond rating. So when we take these bonds out to investors, we're able to show them that AA1 bond rating, your standalone bond rating, which is A2, and talk to them about the general obligation nature of the bonds, as well as your sales tax and those factors. So a very good instrument for us to go out and show investors. The bottom line there is, if you get to the bottom of this particular page, shows you the bond yield. So we're required by the IRS on a tax-exempt bond. Interest on these bonds is tax-exempt to investors. We're required to calculate the interest rate in a certain way. Using that calculation, the bond yield works out to 3.09% on this bond, which I'll make a comparison to our prior bond. We're about 1% higher than we were, I guess, was that now 2 years ago, that revenue was sold. So about 2 years, about 1% higher in interest rates for the same, basically the same time period bonds, the payment's been over. If you look at page 3, this is simply a chart that shows us where we are, historically speaking. We have information in the tax-exempt bond market. These are AAA rates going back to about 1993, and that navy bar right through the middle shows you on average where tax-exempt interest rates have been all the way to 1993, so about a 30-year period. And that red is where they are currently. And so you've heard about the Federal Reserve raising short-term interest rates and the inverted yield curve. This is a normal yield curve. That blue inverted means that the front end is higher than the next maturity. And you'll see this in your bonds. The very short bonds actually pay more in terms of rate than the longer bonds do today. But you really, the range where you're borrowing money from now 1 to 14 years, you can see we've still got a pretty favorable position compared to historic interest rates. So not a bad section within the yield curve to be borrowing. Frank touched on one thing, and this was true of your last bond issue as well. These bonds are priced as premium bonds, which means the investors paid you a little more than face value for the bond. There's a column here, yields, which really represent the interest rate, the rate that they're earning, and then the dollar prices they paid for each bond. That's really a function of the tax-exempt bond market, which is, again, a detail we can spend a lot of time on if you're interested in it. But the bottom line is that investors are paying us about 108 cents on the dollar for this bond, so you're getting a little more than face value. And then page 5, we always like to give you a full accounting of the various expenses that are required, that bond rating, cost of the prospectus that gets put together to show to investors, the underwriter's discount, which I talked about, that's a 1% difference between the face value of the bonds versus where we sell those to investors, which is the underwriter's compensation. And when we take those things and we factor in the premium and then net those things out, we have a construction fund deposit of about $2,065,000. I said about because there are a few spots where we've estimated, to the extent we do a little better on some of these things when we get final invoices in, we'll add that, anything that remains back into your construction fund deposit. We just don't want to surprise you with anything going the wrong direction. So typically that deposit's going to be rounded up just slightly, but not really a meaningful amount. Page 6 is the full payment schedule for these bonds, and really it's probably more useful to us to go on over to page 7, which shows this bond right next to your 2019 bond. Excuse me, I said 2 years ago. I said it should have been 4 years. But when we look at these bonds next to each other and then we total that up on the far right, the reason we do this is we want to compare what are our total payments in a year compared to what the sales tax is producing, which is really your primary source of payment. We can never be perfectly level on this schedule, and the reason is we have to set the principal repayment all the way back when we had the bond election. And as interest rates move around, this, the payment structure is going to get a little unlevel, but we don't know precisely what the interest was way back when this was going before the voters. But you can see you've got payments that range, actually the first payment's $2,423,000 here in the first year, and those payments actually decline just a little bit over time. So if we look at page 8, Frank mentioned this just a moment ago, we generally look at your most recent 12 months of sales tax collections. That's produced $2,984,000 versus a maximum payment of your bonds of about 2.4, just over 2.4 million in this next year. So we're very comfortable with that situation that you're in. Even if that sales tax turns down a little bit, you can comfortably make this bond payment. We hope it keeps going the way it has, and it continues to generate what we call pay-as-you-go money. Some sales taxes above and beyond what you need just to cover your bond payment. This is just a little peek at the sales tax itself. The sales tax are voted generally in 5-year increments. Yours runs through the end of 2026, the levy, and then you're paid 1 month behind that. So your last payment from the current sales tax would be January 1st of 2027. One thing we want to put on people's radars, we do have to set a collection cap, and the way sales tax have been going, sometimes we reach those caps, and so we end up needing to reauthorize the sales tax a little sooner than we had originally planned. So that's just one thing. Y'all aren't in any immediate danger of that. You can see we calculate out you need about a 5% growth rate to really get close to that. But if we're seeing that over the next couple of years, we'll be back in touch with you to talk about when we want to get that sales tax renewed, which may be slightly earlier than we expected. And then lastly, and I know I've said a lot here, but lastly, you may remember this, some of our veteran board members may remember, with all these bond issues, the next step of this is that a tax levy resolution goes before your Board of Commissioners. And that is not the Board of Commissioners levying a tax. It's not, in fact, even you actually levying a tax. It's just one of the provisions of issuing general obligation bonds. One of the legal requirements is that you have to have provided for a property tax should it ever be needed. And we do that in Georgia by asking the commissioners to adopt a tax levy resolution. It is the exact same as when you set your M&O millage rate each year. The school board is not a tax collecting entity, nowhere in the state of Georgia. And so you have to go to the commissioners every year when you set your M&O taxes and say, this is the tax we want you to collect. Please go collect it on our behalf. It's not a discretionary item for the commissioners, but that is how the law was set up in the state of Georgia. And we always make a point of pointing that out because we don't want a commissioner calling you and you have no idea what this tax levy resolution is. But they did the exact same thing in 2019 when the bonds were issued. We don't ever foresee you actually needing to levy that tax, but that resolution does have to be in place in order for the bonds to actually close. And so that is scheduled, I believe, for April the 4th, and that'll go on their agenda at that time. And assuming you take a positive action tonight on your resolution, they do the same on the 4th. The bonds would close on April the 12th, as we discussed. So, as I said, that was a lot that I just said. I didn't really pause much for questions, but if you've got any, I'd be happy to address any that you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Owens, thank you so very kindly. And thank you too, Mr. King. The floor is open for a motion.
It's up to you. Okay. Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we would approve the bond resolution as presented by Mr. Frank and Mr. Tom, which would include the authority of our Superintendent Don Clements and our Board Chair Shirley Brooks' ability to sign off on that resolution.
Second, thank you. That does include the purchase of the $1,990,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions, any comments from anyone on the board? If you are ready, all in favor of the motion for the bond resolution and the bond purchase and authorizing your superintendent and chair to sign, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. To the positive, as you said.
Yes, ma'am. Well, lastly, just thank you very much. We appreciate you having us back in particular, but if anything comes up and you need us, for the life of these bonds, just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out with anything that may come back or come back and visit with you if you need us to. Please just let us know.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, yes.
I'd like to have a motion also that we would agree to pass the bond purchase agreement with the same provision that the Superintendent Don Clements and the Board Chair Shirley Brooks would able to sign off on that purchase agreement to the said amount.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, I thought we did both at the same time. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Sonia?
No, ma'am, I think Mr. King and Mr. Owens took care of everything.
All right, thank you so much. All right.
Ms. Brooks, we've got a long drive, we're going to have to get going. I do want to say, you've got an excellent new superintendent. I want to commend this old man right here. We work, honestly, I get to work with about 100 Georgia school systems, and we know the finance directors everywhere. And this guy's right up there at the top, I want to tell you.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, he does a good job.
Yeah, we think he's pretty good. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Thomas. Yeah, boy,
Okay, floor is open for consent agenda
Give me your
items.
mama's address.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Second for that? Okay. Let's go ahead and go with our first one then. And bills.
Pay bills report, for account 100, the general fund report, total for the fund was $2,699,985.79.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, general fund report.
Account 150, the consolidated report, total for that fund was $156,071.71.
All right, thank you, sir. And we want to talk a little bit about our East Blast. Where are we?
Collection on the East Blast at the end of February, that revenue was $225,271.76.
Which is about 4,600 below our 22 average. But
Short month.
A short month, exactly. A couple of days make a difference, don't it?
That's right.
Okay, facilities report, Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. It's just, numbers, all the time. They busy every day. It's an ongoing thing, but, it's just the way it is when you got this many people in buildings. And, we just try to keep everything going for our teachers and kids,
And we sure do appreciate you. Anybody
Also-
got any questions about the facilities?
I met with Connor today with Paris to sit with Travis there, and we went over, looked at, middle school and primary school, you know, for our summer renovation. So what they're gonna do is, they're gonna start early and work the whole week of spring break.
All right.
And get a head start on, you know, summer, so, trying to nip it, you know, so we can finish. And, you know, I just want to let y'all know that, so,
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Thank you so much, we appreciate that. Next is our athletic report on middle school first. Any questions about middle school finances for the athletic department? We'll move on to our high school. Any questions about high school finance? Excellent. Okay, let's go to transportation. This was given to us for information. I didn't see any out-of-state travel. Any questions about transportation requests for the month of March? Okay, we're gonna move on to our director's report. Hal, how you doing, Hal?
I'm doing good, Mr. Shirley. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
Couple things. I'll try to be brief. Our skills day was Friday, and I know y'all heard me talk about that a lot. But we had 6 stations set up. We let the first 100 juniors that signed up take part in it. We couldn't handle the whole junior class. We just wouldn't. It would have taken all day. We'd still be there. So, but we set up 6 stations. We did basic construction. We taught them how to read a tape measure. That was one of the big things. Change filters in your house. That was a good part of that one. Professionalism, how to shake hands, look folks in the eye. Tie. Anybody knows Kyle Cook? He wears a bow tie every day. And about 3 hours in, his bow tie was crooked because he had done tied that thing so many times, and it was great. CPR and Heimlich maneuver basics. We thought that's pretty important to note. Financial literacy, we talked about finances, we talked about debt and credit score and how to fill out a check, how to sign your name, things like that. Automotive, we showed them how to change a tire, jump start a battery. And then dining etiquette might have been the most fun. It was a lot of fun. Miss Gay did a great job, and all our helpers were part of that as well. But it was a great day. I want to say a special thank you to the CIS, because part of this was we were going to get door prizes, and I was going to have to go out and raise the money, which I would have done. But Becky and her team had a grant that this fell in line with what they were trying to do. So they spent $3,500 on door prizes. And also every kid that attended got a 10-pack of thank you cards that they learned how to write and why you write a thank you card. They got a tape measure, a good quality tape measure, and the guys got to choose from a regular tie or a bow tie. So that was all CIS. So if you see Becky or any of those folks, tell them thank you, because that was huge. And we said, you know, if it was a train wreck, we wouldn't ever do it again. But it went really, really well. And there was, Jenny helped me out, about 50 community volunteers.
Yes,
if you look on Facebook, you'll see a picture of all the community volunteers. We did the town hall with the Men of Vision. Several of those guys were there as a follow-up to of that. So it was a great day. And we'd like to do it again maybe do it next year in the spring and in the fall, and that way we get all the juniors. So it's going to be a good thing. Hopefully we can continue to do that. I'm working on some partnerships with some local industry. I really, really want to tell you about one we closed the other day, but it's not official yet. So, but just know we've got another really good partnership similar to the DMC partnership, and I got a meeting Wednesday with another one. So if we can get those two, we're going to be we'll have some money to do some really cool projects like the Skills Day and, you know, signing day and a lot of other things we do. May 5th is our college and career day, where we get all the colleges to come all the colleges to come to our high school and our seniors Ms. Henderson is working on that, so that's on May 5th. That'll be in the new gym. Signing day is scheduled for April 27th. We started that back when Mr. Sermons was the principal at the high school, and it's been really, really good because we get to recognize, you know, how we do all the athletic signing days. It's really cool, but we recognize the folks that are going to work or, you know, deciding to go what college to go to. So that's on April 27th. And two other dates I want you guys to know about is March 30th is the local flex finals. We're in the third round. We've got Scorched Engraving, which is Andy Nipper and Clint Wixon. They'll engrave anything you show it to them. They'll try to engrave something on it. I've handed them something. They said we'll try to engrave on that, but I don't know. But they're doing really, really well. We've got two freshmen, Rocco Hart and Caden Griffin, who make fishing lures, soft plastics and hard fishing lures, and they're doing really well. And then there's a kid in Ocilla named Connor Paulk who has Paulk's Produce. So we've got three really, really good, and it's totally up in the air who's going to win. I have no idea who's going to win. So that'll be March 30th at the new high school. I will send all you guys an invitation. Please try to be there because it's worth it. And then the state finals, the state flex finals is April 13th. If you remember, we've got 5 schools around the state that are going to participate, that are participating in it. Several of them have already got their winner. They've already done their local finals. They will be sending their winner to us. We've got an all-star cast of judges coming. I wish I could remember all of them that are coming. I'd tell you, but it's a lot of heavy hitters in Georgia that are coming to be judges. And this thing is just getting legs again. I was in Atlanta yesterday with Ms. Clemens at a Georgia Chamber event, and Melissa Dark was speaking on a panel about flex, and it's really picking up steam again. It's always about this time of year, and we're going to try to double the size next year, so there'll be 10 in it next year. And then, you know, after that, there's no telling. We'd like to open it up to the entire state. We've got support from, you know, in trying to find sponsorships, we've got support from, can I say? Probably need to say. We've got support from a really good place. And it's, the money's not going to be an issue anymore. And I think once we get that done, Georgia Flex is going to take off, and hopefully we can. We're going to try to keep it in Fitzgerald as long as we can, but I see it growing and growing, and I don't know if we'll be able to. We'll have to do it, you know, in a bigger facility eventually. So that's April 13th. Again, is the state finals, and the local finals are March 30th. So y'all put that on your calendar if you will. And that's pretty much it, unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate you and all the work you do. That's just fantastic. Okay. Next, we will have Mr. Matt Smith talk to us about the district technology.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Y'all just want to take through these bullets real fast. We have upgraded the boardroom, heavy equipment, just not there. So looking forward to introducing y'all to some of that new stuff. It won't be really much to y'all other than make sure I did get you your own microphone. So as requested.
Thank you.
But really, this was Ms. Clemens' idea. We actually started this back in the fall, so this is just how long it's taken to get going. So there's some nice upgrades. You'll have some control over your microphones. The streaming is set up in a much more professionalized manner. So again, I'll talk about that a little bit last month. I was expecting to show y'all this time around, but we'll push it out one month and we'll be able to introduce that. Just a couple other small things. Process some new Chromebooks for the elementary school. Those are the ones we were able to require at 100% funding through our rural technology grant that we got. Also providing some teachers badge training for the high school. Now, you may recall that we brought them on sort of mid-year just by way of kind of figuring that out as we went along there. But having some teachers there, that'll be their crisis alert system. So they're in a much stronger position now than before. Related but really separate, we've been able to teach cellular alerts for all the faculty and staff district-wide. So what that is an app that goes on their personal smartphone. And it basically alerts an employee if there's an event for their building. This is something that gives an audio component. It's something that, vibrates in your pocket or your pocketbook or whatever, but also lets people know maybe they're approaching the campus and they haven't gotten there yet, stuff like that was just sort of identified and it's being addressed with that app. And then lastly, in our current initiatives, we're doing some of the engineering that's required on the network to prepare for our large intercom upgrades that are due at the primary school, elementary school, middle school, and then pre-K over the summer. So just sort of that prep work and laying that foundation on the in-house side. And then looking ahead at upcoming initiatives, beginning the cabling for the classroom, so that's separate because we're having an installer come in, but they're going to start that spring break, come in the daylight hours while they can, and just get as much of that done again ahead of time as they can to just sort of support and facilitate the success of that project. And then lastly, card access installations. Those actually started today. I got a call from the elementary school where some of the vendor has shown up to start running some of the cabling for that. So very similar to several things that sort of are in the new high school, becomes a model that then turns into a standard, and now we're applying that to the rest of the building. So that's the push button security, basically for the front door, where people don't just get to come into the lobby in an off hour, understand, like during the day and that kind of stuff, where the receptionist can see them with a camera view, speak to them through a microphone and speaker, and then have a button for admission or not into the building. And that's it for technology for the month of February.
Thank you, Matt.
Any questions to Mr. Smith? You heard about the new thing that we're going to have to get to alert 911 in every school. The legislators are working on that.
I did see something about that. Yes, sir.
We'll be looking at that as well. Thank you so much, Matt. All right, next we got Mr. Ben Webb. Going to talk to us about curriculum.
Well, as you can see from our report, we're still attending trainings for the new math curriculum that we're going to implement next year. I have teachers from the schools going to different trainings. I've been going to trainings. Actually, I'll be going the 28th of this month back up to Middle Georgia for the K2 and 3-5 math and try to learn all I can about that curriculum along with some of the teachers from the primary and elementary school. Me and the RTI specialist from each school went to CP RISA and attended a training for the 504, not specifically training of the 504, but basically attorneys telling us, all the legalities of 504s. And I'm happy to say that we pretty well know exactly what we're doing, which makes me very happy because there's always concern that when you start talking with the legal aspect of something that we're going to see something that we need to correct, and we didn't find anything along those lines. So we are really doing a good job with those. We are looking at letters, and I've talked to you about this before, language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. I've met with the curriculum director and their new superintendent in Lanier County. They're pretty much in the same place we are. They're moving forward with language training. Me and my team, K5 team, went to Pine Grove, and their teachers some of their teachers are letters trained, and we actually observed them in action, teaching in the classroom, and totally blown away. The instruction was extremely intense, concise, it was precision. And the vocabulary that the students were using was amazing. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade. But, they knew we were coming. But there are things that teachers and schools don't think about when you're coming. Like all schools, we post student work in the halls. That was impressive. Words. meticulously spaced and spelled correctly. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at letters. Starting to work with Amy Denty from the DOE, and she's actually coming to speak to our teachers this Friday. Our K-5, all our K-5 teachers who are involved in teaching our students to read, I was going to hear from her, and she's going to give a real good overview of letters. She's also working with Reese's in this part of Georgia, working on the contract to present to the state to get us funding for training for our first cohort that starts in August. And so I'm really pushing hard for that. I'm meeting with, of course, I have a meeting next week at CP Risa, and Amy Denty will be there. And so we'll be having this discussion with Regina Purvis and her staff there as well. I've reached out to Lexia. One of their representatives is supposed to get in touch with me and supposed to have also information about grant opportunities that I want our grant writer to be involved in, Ms. Bonnie. And so we're working really, really hard. I've attached a little bit of information, just kind of an overview for you to look at and what that involves. And if you're interested in hearing Amy Denty, she'll be at the elementary school. The presentation starts at 10 o'clock this Friday. Our curriculum, our literacy team, which is our RTI specialist, our instructional coaches, K-5, and teachers from every grade level are trying to narrow down from my view and into reading as far as our curriculum, K-5. I've reached out to Cook County and Jeff Davis. One school has my view and one teaches into reading. We want to talk to those teachers and actually see them teaching lessons. Our teachers who are on the literacy team are actually right now teaching lessons this week from each curriculum because we think we know what it's going to look like in the classroom. We want to implement it in the classroom before we make a decision on what we're going to do. So starting to get a little bit of feedback trickling in. I'm sure in a couple of weeks we'll have a lot of input on these two particular choices. Assessment, Illuminate has been chosen as our assessment platform. K-12, Ms. Brandlin House is working with the company as far as getting that in place for next year. The elementary school, their teachers are begging for it. When we had access to it, to be able to use it, to try it out, they use it extensively. They love it. The thing that they're telling me, though, is the questions are extremely rigorous. And so, and that's what we actually want. That's the reason we're looking at an assessment platform. We want our assessments to be as rigorous as how we're going to be tested at the state. So math testing begins March the 27th for Ben Hill Elementary and Ben Hill Middle. Growth measure and cadence assessment will begin right after spring break. And milestone testing is upon us. We're beginning milestones testing on May the 1st with Ben Hill Elementary and Ben Hill Middle. And I hope to see, we saw some growth last year, and I hope to see more this year.
Mr. Webb, first of all, I owe you an apology. I still haven't had a chance to come by your office for the data that you want to show me, and I'm most interested in seeing it. Please don't think I'm not.
Okay. Well, just let me know. I'll be there.
All right. But I do want to ask something about the letters. Are we going to be able to implement that all the way down to the pre-K, or will the pre-K be off limits for that kind of instruction?
The pre-K is actually, along with K and 1, actually are doing a lot of what's in letters as far as phonics instruction. But the phonics instruction goes a lot deeper with letters, and the reason is because the teachers are really trained in the science of reading and understand why we're doing things the way we're doing them. And so some of that's going to change some because we tend to teach sounds in isolation. For example, there are several different ways that we make the sound E. But instead of teaching those in isolation, they're grouped. And so there's a little bit different philosophy in it, and it seems to be generating some improvements in scores in the schools who are doing it.
Will we be able to engage, by chance, our teachers at the Head Start and at some of our after-school programs to also join us? I know that that's very difficult because they're different entities, but they're still children that we are going to be teaching.
Right. And that's definitely something we want to look at. And we're in L4GA. We have that grant, and part of that has to be spent, as far as the community and especially
Reaching out.
Birth 5. And, so there are monies to do that with.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Well? Thank you. Thank you for including that information, that attachment. It was very helpful. Okay, we're into old business, and that is going to bring us to the update on our athletic facilities, and I guess that's why we got our special guest, Mr. Greg Smith. Is that right? Is that right, Mr.?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Chair. Good evening. Ms. Clemens had asked that I come and give an update on the athletic facilities that were started last year. At that time, we actually went through probably 6, 7, 8 different versions of a master plan, trying to come up with concepts as to what could be placed on that campus in terms of eventually a football stadium, baseball, softball, soccer, track, all the potential facilities. So we did develop a number of facilities, and in a board retreat last year, we came back with a solution that seemed to be the direction we might want to go. I thought I'd go back through some of that history so we could look at some of that discussion that took place and then show you the design we had at the end of last year. That was what the leaning was for the board at that time. Nothing set in stone. All we've done at this point is develop concept designs. We're still looking for some feedback as to what type of direction the board wants to go in with these facilities, what facilities you want to build, and make sure we're within your budgets. The first one, we did this option 1. if you
I'm
notice.
sorry, Mr. Smith. So are you indicating that we may need a meeting that's focused directly on this instead of just the update you're going to give us tonight?
I think it would be worthwhile. I think there are some discussions that might be worthwhile having in terms of scope and make sure. We talked last time, but I think we've had different members of the board. I think it might be worthwhile to have that discussion like we had with that work session.
Thank you.
Even prior to this, we had some options, but this was one of the first ones. And this one, what we looked at doing was extending the parking. And the extension of the parking was to create parking for the tennis courts, the football field, baseball, and softball. We were placing the football stadium close to the building itself. And then we were placing practice fields below it and the softball, baseball field further to the west. And we did a number of different versions in this scenario, locating parking and the fields at different locations. If you could show the next one or two. The next one's very similar to that. Okay. In this one, we just moved the roadway and used the field. Part of the concerns with these first 2 or 3 versions was the phasing of it. The initial intent, the initial monies that have been allocated were for the baseball and softball. And if we built it previously with the baseball softball field where it is, there's a large gap between that and the building, and we are not able to use the concessions and the toilets for the tennis courts and have a single facility. We'd have multiple facilities we'd have to have for restrooms for the tennis courts and the baseball softball. So the next version, we actually took the entire structure, moved it around. We moved the baseball softball field closer to the tennis courts. And the intent was to have better access to the building, but also have better access to the tennis courts so we could use combined concessions and toilets and limit the number of buildings you have to build initially. In this case, the football stadium was moved to the west, and we had the main entrance coming in from the south and the parking lot for it. And then we had a practice field with a track around it, which would be down to the south of the field. None of this is a given at this point. The intent is to try to create a master plan so that when we put one structure out there, one set of fields, we're not limiting where we put the others. And we know what the next steps will be as we go through the process. One of the original major assumptions made was that this baseball softball field would be a combination field.
The earliest discussions were that we'd have a single baseball field and a single softball field, which is a little more traditional. But a discussion took place that it might be more economical and more functional if we used artificial turf on the field and had a combined baseball and softball field that would be convertible from one to the other. And as I go back to the slides a little further, I'll show you how that's accomplished. We actually looked at a couple that have done that way in the state. So in this particular one, we've added parking, not as much as previously. As we started looking at the budgets, we tried to pull some of these things back from a dream to more realistic, something that's more affordable. So that the parking was reduced in half, created less parking. Initially, there was a discussion about adding 2 tennis courts to take that number of tennis courts from 8 to 10. Putting a press box, concessions, and toilets at the northeast corner of the baseball and softball field. Dugouts on the side. We'd have a pitching area. Of course, we had the dugouts, and then we'd have the pitching and the field itself. A number of other facilities. Down south, one of the ones that we added was storage here. Dressing rooms down here by the gym. Main concessions and toilets for the football stadium. So we've tried to identify each of the types of facilities that you may need over time and locate them there so we have a plan. Softball, baseball normally is oriented northeast. In other words, the home plate is normally the southwest. That created some challenges with the relationship of the concessions and toilets. So we met with the coaches, and the coaches felt like a southwestern direction is just as good for them as a northeastern direction. So this is a little bit different orientation than what you may typically see on a baseball and softball complex. Any questions about the layout? Again, this was the last, after our last retreat, we went back and made these changes. Originally, if you recall, we had 2 practice fields down here. We had a practice for soccer and a practice for football.
Right.
Instead of that, we combined them again and we put a single field, artificial turf, practice for football and soccer.
Artificial turf on the practice field?
That's how we had it the last time. Again, it can be changed. And then we put the track around that. Now, the track was a very low priority because you have the track at the middle school. But again, as we lay it out, we're trying to make sure that we have spaces for these. One big assumption here is the track does not go around the football stadium. And what that does is it brings the bleachers in closer. The stadium's a little bit more intimate because all the spectators are closer to the field than they are if you have a track there that pulls them apart. So there was part of a discussion about if a track is placed out here, where it goes. And it was decided to move it out of the stadium.
Now, I understand these are preliminary drawings, but can we get copies of these now? Yes, can we?
And you actually have it right here, and I can email it to you, certainly.
Fabulous. So I can have time to see it.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see it on the presentation like this, and that's why I think we need to sit down around a table with them on the table that we can look
Sounds
at.
good. Anybody have any questions?
I look forward to the workshop and moving forward with it, because I know it's something that's been on the table for a while, and
It has been.
it's time to pull the trigger on it, one way or another.
So we don't need to promise anything to our coaches as far as them having even a baseball, softball field ready by next season? Can't do it?
Not likely at this point.
All right, just wanted to be sure. All right.
Part of the issues with that, especially with artificial turf,
Oh, yeah.
is at this point getting that artificial turf and getting people to put it in because all of them are booked up.
And I understand too that we want some special artificial turf with some kind of ball in it.
It's just the infield portion of it needs to be removed.
Okay, did you know about that?
I did not, but
Okay.
I am doing that. I did not know it was a request here. We are
Uh-huh.
doing it at another facility. So we're
Yes.
doing one right now.
Less injuries to the children, I understand, correct?
And it keeps it cooler, and I think there's been some concerns.
Okay.
The heat is a major issue than the artificial turf.
So that would be something we probably would discuss too at the workshop. So we, Dawn, if you would schedule something for us, just where we can just talk about this in much more detail. I appreciate it.
Travis, we need to come up with a timeline for this, because we were gonna bid this out in late April, early May. Is that
Well,
correct?
we've got to get design complete
Right.
now, and I know design's been on hold, but that was the original.
The original timeline.
Like,
And we had talked about, just for reference, that we had thought about 2 grass fields instead of the artificial turf.
That's actually how we have the budget, and I've got copies of mine to bring, there's some new faces, but we still have it budgeted with 2 grass fields.
Right.
We can reduce it to 1, and we've got a price in there and add for going to turf. The turf, each field is a little over $100,000. For just a sprig field, I think in your instructions, you said no engineered field or anything like that, so it was just a plain, graded and then sprig. And we did include some irrigation in there just to keep the grass growing. So they aren't that expensive to add. You would get, that $115,000 back on one field, but then you add $780,000 for the turf. Turf is not an expense. And that didn't include any of the track facilities, track and field facilities around it.
And the estimated budget was about 6.4 million, is that correct?
6.1.
6.1 million. So, we definitely need to get on this as soon as possible. Yes.
Okay, so we need to make ourselves available for a possible call meeting, just to discuss this issue.
Madam Chairman, I would suggest you look at your calendar and just tell us what, maybe next week, so we move on quickly. Right. Ms. Clemens, could we possibly do that combined with the finance training, or what do you think?
We got whole board training on the 23rd. Will we have time? Oh, that's an
Yes,
ADL,
ADL.
yeah, okay, can't do that.
That's on Thursday, correct?
That's on
Correct.
Thursday.
Monday or Tuesday?
Next week?
Yeah. I'm good for Monday, the 20th. Everybody else? The 20th?
Sounds
Greg,
good.
did you come with me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome.
Go with the 20th.
Travis, you available?
This is a, meeting is 6 o'clock at our board office.
Yeah.
Thumbs up? Okay.
Yes.
Monday the 20th.
And I'll go through this in more detail there then, the budget. And you mentioned possibly squeezing in a field house within it. I can come up with some ideas for that. But we'll go through that in detail.
And also lots for that correct fee. Lots for the correct fee.
I greatly appreciate y'all coming tonight, just to start up the conversation again so that we can move forward. I really do. And we'll see you on Monday.
We'll see you then.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see. We are moving into new business, superintendent's new business. Request to approve surplus technology.
Madam Chairman, I make approval to surplus the technology items that's listed that we were given.
Second.
And there's a second, and there's a lot of items. You want to see all that? When we surplus, just for discussion, when we surplus, exactly what happens to those items?
Usually, go ahead, Matt.
So we'll schedule a pickup from a partner, they call themselves e-waste the recyclers basically. So they come, they send trucks, big box trucks. They physically take it out of our buildings, load it onto their trucks, they take it to their facilities. Anything that is a data item, a component that can hold data, it goes through a destruction process, and then they send us a certificate of destruction, just so that we're covered on the back end, and then at that point, basically, it's out of our hands.
Okay, so, I'm not a hoarder, but, excuse me, so there's nothing in this surplus group of things that anybody in Fitzgerald can use to help any children. I know the 10-year-old stuff is no good at all.
Right, I mean, basically, the way that we identify this stuff is age first. And then most of this stuff, Madam Chair, has been sitting in storage for a while. Now, could we revive some of this stuff, and could it be functional? yes, we could. Would it be worth the time, and is it going to accept any kind of our training system and be able to be kept up? I would have doubts about that, but I don't think we can say, with technology, anything's possible.
Sure.
That's what, the people, y'all understand that. So could we invest some time and energy and effort into these items and get some of them functional? Yes, technically we could. It would just be a question of whether that's worthwhile or not.
So do we get anything on return investment whenever we send this off? Do they pay us maybe even for the weight or the metal or?
Generally, this stuff at this age is in such bad condition, they're basically just scrapping it, and then, now I'll be glad we do ask that sometimes, but they tell us, they say, hey, look, by the time you come and get it, they send trucks, they spend fuel, they're here for 8 hours, they have a crew, it's about, sort of cost for it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I'm all into recycling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. The next item that we have is our legislative positions and self-nomination forms. Georgia School Board Association, our association that we pay our dues to, always send this out annually for weeks so that we have the opportunity as board members in South Georgia to have opportunity to self-nominate ourselves to run for either president or vice president, and I believe treasurer of Georgia School Board Association. So those forms are here. If you decide that you would like to run for one of those positions, please alert us so that our board can vote our support for you. And then you go up and meet with the governing committee, and they'll do the interview, and then you'll be appointed, and we'll actually have someone from Benton County in leadership of Georgia School Board Association. But it is timely, so please look at those forms if you're interested in doing it and get back with us, okay? Exemplary board process. Oh, let's do that. Thank you very much, Debbie. Okay, also during this time, Georgia School Board Association meet our delegates, the person that will be voting in at our June meeting in Savannah. So, the floor is open for a nomination. I normally nominate the person that's going to be there anyway and has to be there, Teresa Davis, as our delegate. She is on the board of directors for Georgia School Board Association and has to be there anyway. Any other nominee? All in favor of Teresa Davis taking that baton for us, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Teresa, congratulations. Oh, yes, and just in case Teresa cannot make it, we do need to have an alternate. Since Jeremy's gone, I nominate you. Sorry. Do y'all want to nominate somebody?
What is this date again? I'll nominate myself.
All right. Tyler nominated himself. Anyone else want to be nominated? All in favor of Tyler being our alternate in case Teresa gets lost on the way to Savannah, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Congratulations, Tyler. Okay. Thank you, Debbie. I missed that. Assembly. Is that where we are? Did I miss something? Oh, exemplary. Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Exemplary board process. You want to talk about that a little bit?
The exemplary board process, the application starts on March 31st and runs through July 28, 2023. The criteria are for strategic planning, Georgia Vision for Public Education, governance team assessment, superintendent evaluation. There's a rubric that you have to go by. The local board of education training requirements, our accreditation, and board member ethics, fiscal responsibility, and recognition, consideration, or removal.
So have we already made that checkoff list of everything, including superintendents and that?
We are working on that right now. We have to do a few more things within this rubric to make sure that we meet those criteria. But we have the balanced scorecard ready to do. We started that at the beginning of the year, so we could do exemplary board And so we have met most of this. The only other thing is for our board members to get their 15 hours of state Board of Education required training. And we've done some of this already with, some of you went to the RESA training. Some of you went to the new board training.
Yeah.
And then there's another RESA training coming up March 23rd. You'll be at, you've been to GSBA. There's one, that you went to in December. There's another one in June. So I don't really think we'll have.
Oh, so it will count for the one coming up in June?
Yes, ma'am, because it's not due till July 28th. So I think everybody will have a chance to get their hours. And if you did miss the training in December, you can go back and watch the video and get training hours for that too. And Debbie has the forms for that.
And in April, I'll have the listing on the board agenda that'll show every one of my sheets and how many hours on each have.
So I think we got a really good shot.
Okay, I was just afraid I might be a little bit short.
Gonna call us out.
It's great.
Everybody's gonna try. I'll let you know.
Strike.
Okay, yeah. I was worried I might be a little bit short from missing the December one, but okay. Excellent. Thank you so much, Donna. Y'all will get that in for us. We will be so proud to represent Ben Hill County as a Georgia School Board Exemplary Board. Okay, our subscription for our Assembly software is up. And it goes from July 1st, 23 to 6/30/2024 in the amount of $13,600. The floor is open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I motion that we do a subscription renewal of GSBA Assembly software.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Second.
All right, and Ms. Davis, I appreciate that. Any questions about this invoice or this amount? This is the software that we use to keep up with everything, and so it's just essential to the way that we do business. All in favor of approving the purchase of the Assembly software subscription for $13,600 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, first read. First read of board policy JB, student attendance. Dr. Stones, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, the biggest change we've got with this policy is dealing with that we make our contacts for absences that are unexcused only. The previous policy talked about excused and unexcused. We're moving to unexcused, and the reasoning behind that is since COVID has hit, we spend a lot of time at the school level meeting with parents. The requirement was at 5 absences, you had to have a parent meeting at the school level, and we had kids out with COVID. Well, they were excused. I mean, you had 5 days right there, and we've had flu this year. I mean, we were just spinning our wheels on absence, meeting with those parents. And 2, we had that you had to send letters at 3, 5, 7, and 10. And I looked at surrounding counties, I looked in the Atlanta area, and there were no other school systems that had in their policy that they were sending out formal letters to parents. And Thomas can speak to this. The ones that were coming back to us because the addresses were bad addresses, I mean, I don't know how much money we're probably going to be saving by moving to this, but with Infinite Campus, we now have the ability to send out those notices to the parents' cell phones and their email addresses, which are more stable, than a phone number or a mailing address. And we feel like those emails were able to get parents pretty good. So we just changed that instead of sending out a letter, that we're going to do emails and phone calls. I do think there's still 2 letters that'll go out. I think the letter goes out at 5 and the letter goes out at 10. But we're saving on the 3, 5, and 7 day. And again, just changing from the unexcused, just looking at unexcused rather than looking at excused and unexcused. Y'all, flu hit us hard this year. Flu and COVID coming back around. And we've got kids that you've got, if you've had the flu once and you've had COVID, there's your 10 days right there.
Ms. Don, help me understand, in our attendance policy, it used to say that if you miss so many days, you would fail your class. Now, even if you did well in the class, in spite of the fact that you missed 10 or 15
Right,
days?
so that's another thing that I believe is clarified
That
in
was
here.
Okay.
Yes, because what the state says in the state rule is that, yes, you're supposed to not get credit unless all of your absences can be excused and if you're passing the class. So, again.
So if one of your absences was not excused,
Right.
you would fail.
No. Rick, pull that up. Where is it? It talks about that in there. Let me see how it's worded, how we worded it, because we worded it exactly how the state worded it.
Okay, cool. That's just something I've never really quite understood, if you can still pass the class.
Right.
Is it under grades and that?
And that typically is at the high school level where that's going to take place out anyways, where they have to earn a credit. And the high school has a committee set up that they look at those students. And we've had that for years. Mr. Harmon has always led that at the high school. That,
It says, course grades of students shall not be penalized because of absences if the following conditions are met. The absences are justified and validated as excused, makeup work is satisfactorily completed, and a passing grade has been earned in the course. So,
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for clarifying. All right, thank you, Ms. Stone. Any other questions about the policy? First read. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the first read of board policy JB, student attendance?
Motion to approve first read, board policy JB, student attendance.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's look at this bid for our mobile unit. It looks to me, who wants to talk about that? Should I?
Yes, we had, the winning bid was a company called Well 3Ts LLC. Purchase price of $7,490.
That's more than we usually get in.
Yes, ma'am.
That's pretty darn good.
I was well pleased.
Okay, so that's going to Mr. Willie Lattimore, I guess?
Yes, ma'am, he's the principal there.
Okay. Are there any questions about it? Floor is open for a motion.
Motion to accept the bid from mobile unit, Benton Hill Primary School.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have some events coming up. You can see our call meeting for finance and ethics is going to be determined at a later date. We'll get with you about that. We're hoping we can get somebody from GSBA to come down and just talk to us a little bit, since we're just a newly formed board, and discuss some things with us that we may have forgotten, refresh for some, new for others. We also have our school board appreciation this week, and thank you all for that wonderful reception. It was very, very nice. We have our regular meeting that is scheduled for April the 11th at 6 o'clock. Be back at our whole board office. We got our whole board training that is March the 23rd, and that's going to be in Adel. That's next Thursday.
Yes, ma'am.
And Casey Cole will help us with that. Top 10 banquet is coming up April the 25th. We all need to attend that. It's one of the most wonderful banquets. Is that still sponsored by the Rotary?
yes, ma'am.
All right, excellent. And then we got our senior sign-in day, that's April the 27th, and Hal told us a great deal about that, and we do want to show up for those events just like we do for our athletic events. And then we have senior recognition night on May 16th. We got honors night, May the 18th, and I can't believe we're already talking about graduation on May the 26th. All right, we got our conference we'll be going to this summer in Savannah from June the 8th through the 10th. And then we have our local board governors training, including the training plan form and the annual report form, which is due June the 30th, 23. That's what we were just talking about. Down. Okay.
Ms. Brooks, on the summer conference, the motel is already full.
Where we gonna stay?
If they don't have rooms to open up, which have gone up to $482 a night.
Okay.
There's no way I'll be able to get online and try to get them, because you can't do it 2 at a time, 2 rooms. They sell out within 5 minutes. So therefore, I may have to go book everybody at the Dollar Tree.
Oh, so long as we have to stay under the bridge, I'm fine. I can walk down there from the Dollar Tree. Can't y'all walk from the Dollar Tree? All right. Do not forget, y'all, we got to send in our personal finance disclosure forms by July 1. The sooner you get those in, the better. And then we won't have that penalty. I believe it's like $50 a day. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting mine. Okay? And now, we are ready. Anybody need to go into executive session? Really? Okay, let's go. You do? Okay, is it on recommendations? Can I do, let me ask this, and y'all tell me, Lord, if y'all don't feel comfortable with this. Can I go ahead and do resignations and retirements since nobody's going to have a problem with those? And the executive session will be a lot shorter? We good with that, Mr. Palmer? We okay with that? Let's skip and go to resignations. Can I do that? I can do that, can I? Okay. Resignations. Let's take a look at that. Anybody got any problem with the resignations? I only have a problem with it. Would you mind reading off the resignations? And we'll make a motion.
Well, their information on the show.
The only information?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Once they
cool.
resign.
Okay, so I don't know if y'all can see who's resigning. Who's leaving us? We're gonna miss one and all. Okay, let's look at retirements right quick. I guess that's also information, even though it says an action item. That's information. I can't stop them from retiring
You
either.
can't stop them from retiring, but I think y'all traditionally just vote to accept it.
Just vote to accept? Okay, so I need a motion for retirements. We got 2 people, Michelle Dennison and Patricia Bailey.
Motion accept 7 times.
Okay? Second time?
Yep.
All right, thank you. All in favor of accepting the retirements of the 2 people named, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. I don't have the form for executive session. Okay, legally, we are going into an executive session to discuss personnel. Okay? After a 5-minute recess, all in favor?
You get a vote.
Oh, I need a motion. Who's got it?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor must raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.